These batteries mean a lot to Felix Shaw. They're what powers the 17-year-old's hearing aids that connect to implants he got when he was 5. He's now got approval to have them fully funded for life, but it hasn't been easy.
It was a lot of back and forth discussions, and it was also a lot of fighting.
People like Felix, who were born deaf, are eligible to receive funded hearing aid batteries, but access to that money becomes far more difficult after the age of 18. In fact, the Green Bay High School student was under the impression he'd have to pay for them himself and started a petition earlier this year to address the issue. It turns out the funding was available, but involves a complicated process.
It's a very difficult, complex system, mostly with going back and forth and having to deal with so many people. We had to say why I needed these things, and I don't think that you should have to use arguments like that to get basic support needs.
On the face of it, the government says, oh look, we've got millions of dollars for funding for disability, but actually a whole lot of it can't get used because it's too complicated to access.
Felix secured his funding through the Taikura Trust, which acts as the middleman to provide what's called a Needs Assessment and Service Coordination, or NASC, for people with disabilities on behalf of the Ministry of Social Development. Here's how it works. In order to receive hearing aid battery funding as an adult, a needs assessment must be done and a request for individualised funding with supportive evidence has to be put forward. If successful, a budget is approved, which is then routed through a ministry agent.
The disability support system is spectacularly complicated with the clear intention to make it so difficult for people that they back off. He should be funded for the batteries. The law says he should be funded for the batteries, but I've long learnt that the Ministry of Disabled People and Disability Support Services more generally, that they pay very little interest or heed to the law.
And it's not just funding for batteries, it's also left Felix's parents wondering about other support they were denied when he was young.
We had access to that funding and we asked for certain things and we were just told no, so we just took that on the surface of it. And because of the work and research that Felix has done, we now look back and go oh my goodness, we could have actually, if we had known what to ask, we could have got that funding.
Felix has since created a step-by-step guide to help others access funding and hopes to have it more widely distributed.
We need to implement it into the procedure of transitioning from the childhood hospital to the adult hospital, and they need to put it in the actual booklet around how to get the funding, because there's nothing at the moment.
Things have got worse in disabilities, not better. And unfortunately, Felix is on the receiving end of it, and he's to be applauded to continuing to try and see if he can bring about change.
MSD says it's currently reviewing funding for hearing aids, including the cost of batteries, and plans to get in touch with Felix to talk about his ideas.
I would like to see a much smoother system for a start, but I would also like to actually see that the people who you ask about the funding, they just tell people instead of you having to actually ask.
A simple request for greater clarity for those who need it most. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. To stay up to date with all the latest New Zealand Herald news, click the subscribe button below or check out one of these videos. And head over to nzherald.co.nz for more news worth knowing.